The Skoptsy. The Skoptsy were a secret sect within the Russian Empire that emerged in the late 18th century as an offshoot of the Klisty movement. The group was founded by Kondraty Selivanov, a peasant who declared himself to be the son of God and later the reincarnated Tsar Peter III. The central tenet of the Skoptsy was that original sin entered the world through sexual desire. They believed that human genitals were the keys to the abyss, and that the only path to eternal salvation and spiritual perfection was the complete physical removal of sexual organs. They interpreted biblical passages, specifically Matthew 19:12. There are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven, as literal instructions. The group practiced two forms of ritual mutilation, which they referred to as the baptism of fire. The lesser seal involved the removal of the testicles, while the great seal involved the total removal of the male genitalia. Women also underwent mutilation, which typically involved the removal of the breasts, nipples, or external genitalia. These procedures were often performed without anesthetic using crude instruments like knives or hot irons. Despite the extreme nature of their initiation, the Skoptsy were highly successful at recruiting. Because members had no children and lived communally, they accumulated significant wealth, often working as moneylenders and merchants. They used this wealth to bribe officials and support new converts. At its height in the early 20th century, the sect had an estimated 100,000 members. The movement survived Tsarist persecution but was ruthlessly targeted by the Soviet government starting in the 1920s. By the mid-20th century, the organized sect had been effectively eradicated through mass arrests and imprisonment. The Blackburn Cult. The Blackburn Cult, officially known as the Divine Order of the Royal Arms of the Great 11, was established in Los Angeles in 1922 by May Otis Blackburn and her daughter, Ruth Wieland. Blackburn claimed she had been contacted by the Archangel Gabriel and was tasked with writing a text titled The Great Sixth Seal, which would reveal all the hidden mysteries of the universe and locate lost gold deposits. The group's recruitment strategy targeted wealthy individuals interested in the metaphysical boom of the 1920s. Their most significant patron was Clifford Dabney, the nephew of a prominent oil magnate, who gave the group $50,000, roughly $850,000 today, in exchange for the rights to Blackburn's upcoming book. With this funding, the group established a compound in the Santa Susana Mountains. Life within the cult was grueling. Blackburn reportedly used drugs and exhaustion to control members, forcing them to perform heavy labor and participate in bizarre rituals. One such ritual involved the sacrifice of mules, which Blackburn claimed was necessary to ward off evil spirits that were attacking the compound. The cult's activities turned fatal, involving a 16-year-old member named Willa Rhodes. When Rhodes died, likely from an untreated tooth infection, her parents, who were cult members, did not report the death. Instead, Blackburn claimed she could resurrect the girl. The group preserved Rhodes' body in salt and spices and placed it in a bathtub filled with ice. At one point, they also placed the bodies of 7 puppies in the coffin with her, believing this would aid the resurrection. The body was kept under the floorboards of the house for 14 months. The group collapsed in 1929 when Clifford Dabney realized the promised book was nonsense and filed fraud charges. During the investigation, police discovered the mummified remains of Willa Rhodes. May Otis Blackburn was convicted of grand theft, though the conviction was later overturned on a technicality. The group disbanded following the scandal. Love Has Won. Love Has Won was a largely internet-based religious group led by Amy Carlson, who was referred to by her followers as Mother God. Founded in the late 2000s, the group gained traction through daily live streams on YouTube and Facebook, recruiting people who were interested in New Age spirituality and conspiracy theories. Carlson claimed to be a divine being who had been reincarnated 534 times over 19 billion years, including lives as Jesus Christ, Joan of Arc, Cleopatra, and Marilyn Monroe. The group's cosmology was a blend of QAnon conspiracies, starseed mythology, and astrology. They believed that a galactic federation of light was working to ascend humanity to the 5th dimension, and that Carlson was the physical vessel coordinating this transition. The group operated out of various rented houses in Colorado, Hawaii, and Oregon. Life inside the house was broadcast online, often showing Carlson in states of extreme intoxication or rage. Members were subjected to sleep deprivation and verbal abuse, which the group framed as etheric surgery necessary to remove their ego. A central practice of the group was the heavy consumption of colloidal silver, which they sold as a cure-all. Over time, the excessive ingestion of silver caused Carlson to develop argyria, a condition that permanently turned her skin a grayish-blue color. In April 2021, authorities discovered Amy Carlson's mummified body in a house in Moffett, Colorado. She had been dead for several weeks. Her followers had wrapped the body in a sleeping bag and Christmas lights, applied glitter makeup to her face, and set up a shrine around her corpse. 7 members were arrested on charges related to abuse of a corpse and child abuse, though the charges were later dropped or altered in plea deals. The group has since splintered into new factions, continuing to broadcast similar beliefs under different names. Pana-Wave Laboratory. Pana-Wave Laboratory originated in Japan as a radical offshoot of the religious group Chino Shoho, and it was led by Yuko Chino, a woman who suffered from deteriorating health and claimed her condition was caused by electromagnetic waves utilized by communist guerrillas. The group's central doctrine focused on the danger of scalar waves and electromagnetic frequency. To protect their leader, members developed extreme avoidance behaviors. They adopted an all-white aesthetic, believing the color white blocked harmful waves. This mandate extended to everything they owned. Members wore white surgical gear, white boots, and white robes. They drove a caravan of white vans covering the steering wheels and dashboards with white masking tape to reduce electrical interference. In the early 2000s, the group became nomadic, moving through rural Japan to find areas with low electromagnetic interference. When they set up camp, they would cover the surrounding environment, including guardrails, trees, and the ground, with white sheets. Members attempted to capture a wild seal nicknamed Tamachan from a river in Yokohama. The group believed the seal had been misled by electromagnetic waves and that returning it to Arctic waters was necessary to prevent a pole shift that would destroy the Earth. The cult's activities culminated in a standoff with police in Gifu Prefecture in May 2003. Chino had predicted the world would end on May 15th due to the approach of a 10th planet, Nibiru. Media outlets swarmed their encampment as the date approached. When the apocalypse failed to materialize, the group lost momentum. Yuko Chino died in 2006, effectively ending the group's organized activities, though a few followers continued to live communally in their facilities. The Nuwaubian Nation. The United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, commonly known as the Nuwaubian Nation, was a black separatist organization led by Dwight York. The group originated in New York in the 1970s under various names, including the Ansaru Allah community. York constantly shifted the group's theology, moving from black Muslim interpretations to Judaism, and eventually to a complex ancient Egyptian and extraterrestrial mythology. In 1993, York moved the group to Putnam County, Georgia, where they purchased a 476-acre property. On this land, they constructed an elaborate compound called Tama-Re. The site was designed to resemble ancient Egypt, featuring two full-sized pyramids, obelisks, statues of pharaohs, and a sphinx. York claimed the land was a sovereign state independent of the United States government. By this time, York's doctrine had evolved into Nuwaubu. He claimed to be an extraterrestrial master teacher from the planet Risk. The group's literature taught that white people were troglodytes created by genetic engineering, that Nikola Tesla was a Venusian, and that the Nuwaubians were preparing for the arrival of spaceships. Members lived in trailers on the compound, adhered to a strict dress code, and worked to maintain the theme park-like structures. The organization came to a violent end following a federal investigation into York's behavior. In May 2002, hundreds of state and federal agents raided Tama-Re. Dwight York was arrested and charged with over 100 counts of child molestation, racketeering, and financial crimes. Evidence revealed he had systematically abused children within the compound for years. In 2004, York was sentenced to 135 years in federal prison. Following the sentencing, the government seized the Tama-Re compound. In June 2005, the pyramids and structures were bulldozed and the land was sold, effectively erasing the physical presence of the cult. No Hana. No Hana Sanpogyo was a Japanese new religious movement founded in 1987 by Hogen Fukunaga. Fukunaga, who claimed to be the reincarnation of both Jesus Christ and the Buddha, built the organization around a unique diagnostic practice he termed foot reading. The group's primary recruitment method involved offering free foot examinations to the public. Fukunaga claimed that by examining the soles of a person's feet, he could diagnose their physical health, financial future, and spiritual state. During these sessions, followers were invariably told that their feet revealed signs of fatal illnesses, such as cancer, or that they were suffering from ancestral curses that would ruin their families. Once the subject was sufficiently frightened, the group offered a solution: expensive purification seminars and the purchase of religious goods, such as scrolls and ornaments, which were sold at exorbitant prices. The cost for a 5-day training seminar could exceed $20,000. The group taught that money was dirty and that handing it over to the organization was the only way to purify one's soul and avoid the predicted calamities. At its peak, No Hana claimed over 30,000 followers and collected roughly $950 million from members. The organization began to crumble in the late 1990s when former members filed lawsuits alleging fraud. In December 1999, Japanese police raided the cult's headquarters. Hogen Fukunaga was arrested in 2000 and charged with swindling nearly 150 million yen from victims, though the total damages were estimated to be much higher. In 2001, the organization was declared bankrupt, and in 2005, Fukunaga was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Breatharianism. Breatharianism is a belief system claiming that human beings do not require food or water to survive, but can instead subsist on prana, universal life force, or sunlight. While the concept has ancient roots, it was transformed into a modern high-control group in the 1990s by Ellen Grieve, an Australian woman who adopted the name Jasmuheen. Jasmuheen claimed that she had not eaten a full meal since 1993. She marketed this lifestyle not merely as a diet, but as a method of spiritual ascension. She taught that by eliminating physical sustenance, followers could alter their DNA, stop the aging process, and achieve immortality. To enter this state, she prescribed a strict initiation ritual known as the 21-day process. This regimen required followers to abstain from all food and water for 7 days, followed by 2 weeks of diluted juice intake. To convince followers, Jasmuheen utilized pseudoscientific language, referring to her method as the pranic nourishment process. She sold books, audio tapes, and retreats costing thousands of dollars, positioning herself as a spiritual researcher rather than a religious leader. She claimed that those who failed to transition were held back by their own doubt or lack of spiritual integrity. The movement faced severe scrutiny following multiple fatalities. In 1999, a Scottish woman named Verity Lynn died of hypothermia and dehydration in the Scottish Highlands, while attempting the 21-day process with a copy of Jasmuheen's book. Another follower, Lainey Morris, died in 1998. Her caregivers were jailed for manslaughter. Jasmuheen denied responsibility for these deaths, stating that the victims had not come from a place of integrity. In a pivotal moment for the group's public perception, the Australian television program 60 Minutes challenged Jasmuheen to demonstrate her ability to live without food under 24-hour surveillance. After 4 days, the supervising doctor terminated the experiment because Jasmuheen displayed signs of severe dehydration, elevated heart rate, and significant weight loss. Jasmuheen claimed the test failed not because she needed water, but because the air near the hotel was polluted, interfering with her nutrient intake. While Jasmuheen remains active today, these events largely discredited the movement in the public eye. Chen Tao. Chen Tao, meaning the true way, was a religious movement founded in Taiwan by a former professor named Han Ming Chen. The group's ideology was a syncretic mix of Buddhism, Christian apocalypticism, and UFO conspiracy theories. In 1997, Chen moved the group to the United States, eventually settling in the suburb of Garland, Texas. The leader reportedly chose this specific town because he believed Garland sounded like God's land. The group practiced a communal lifestyle, buying up suburban homes in the neighborhood to live together. Their most distinct public behavior was their uniform. Members dressed entirely in white and wore white cowboy hats. Chen instructed them to wear the hats, believing it would allow them to blend in seamlessly with the local Texas population, though it had the opposite effect. They believed that the solar system was created by an ancient nuclear war and that they were preparing for evacuation. The cult garnered international media coverage due to a specific prophecy made by Chen. He declared that on March 31, 1998, at exactly 12:01 a.m., God would physically incarnate at the group's headquarters at 3513 Ridgedale Drive. Chen claimed God would briefly appear on Channel 18 of the local cable network before manifesting in the front yard to board a spaceship, which would be disguised as a cloud. When the designated time arrived, neighbors and news crews surrounded the house. God did not appear. Han Ming Chen emerged from the house shortly after the deadline passed and admitted to the press that he had been wrong. He offered to allow his followers to stone him to death or crucify him for his failure. The followers declined the offer. Following the failed prophecy, the group rapidly lost membership. Chen later faced legal trouble for immigration fraud, and the remaining members largely dispersed or returned to Taiwan. The Universe People. The Universe People, also known as the Cosmic People of Light Powers, was founded in the Czech Republic by Ivo Benda in the late 1990s. Benda claimed to be the primary contact for a fleet of extraterrestrial spaceships led by a commander named Ashtar Shiran. Their central doctrine posits that these aliens are circling the Earth, waiting to evacuate humanity before a catastrophe caused by negative forces. In terms of daily operations, the group focused on vibration management and resisting what they called the control of the Saurians, meaning lizard people living underground. A specific fixation of the group was the alleged danger of barcodes. Members believed barcodes were antennas used by the Saurians to transmit negative energy and track the population. Consequently, followers were instructed to physically cut out or scribble over barcodes on all groceries and products they purchased to break the link. The group also engaged in aggressive information warfare. They are best known for spamming residential mailboxes across the Czech Republic and Slovakia with brightly colored, text-heavy leaflets. They maintained a website with a distinct, chaotic design to distribute thousands of messages Benda claimed to have telepathically received from the fleet. The movement did not end in violence, but rather in ridicule and decline. By the late 2000s, the public viewed the group as a nuisance due to their spamming tactics. In 2011, Ivo Benda suffered a stroke, which significantly reduced his ability to lead public lectures or organize events. While the website remains online, the group effectively ceased to function as an active organization, dissolving into an internet oddity. Fiat Lux. Fiat Lux is a Swiss new religious movement founded in 1980 by Erika Bertschinger-Eike, who adopted the spiritual name Uriela. The origins of the group can be traced to a horse riding accident in 1973, during which Bertschinger-Eike suffered a severe head injury. Upon recovering, she claimed that her spiritual vision had been opened and that she was now a medium serving as the mouthpiece for Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary. The group established its headquarters in the Black Forest region of Germany. Uriela's doctrine was strictly millenarian. She predicted that the world would soon be cleansed by a massive global catastrophe involving meteorites and tidal waves, leaving only the Black Forest and her followers safe. Members were required to wear white or beige clothing, abstain from meat, alcohol, and television, and were often discouraged from seeking traditional medical treatment. A central economic and spiritual practice of the cult was the production of athram water. Uriela claimed that by stirring tap water in a bathtub with a silver ladle for extended periods while praying, she could imbue it with cosmic energy and healing properties. This magnetized water was then bottled and sold to followers at a high markup as a cure for everything from cancer to depression. At its peak, the group had several hundred members living in the community and thousands of supporters paying for these remedies. The group faced legal challenges throughout the 1990s regarding tax evasion and the practice of medicine without a license. Public scrutiny intensified in 1998 when Uriela predicted the apocalypse would occur in August of that year, leading followers to prepare for evacuation in spaceships. When the world did not end, the group faced ridicule and defections. Uriela died in 2019, and while a core group of members remains in the Black Forest, the movement has largely ceased public recruitment. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.